Back in the carnage. Monza Mayhem for the 5 millionth time. Just to clarify, that is not an Aston Martin, it's actually a Toyota. But yes, here we go once again, guys. It's that time once more on this channel where we visit the Cathedral of Chaos, which is Monza. We all love a bit of Monza. It's a recurring theme of the Super GT YouTube channel as we head towards, or hurtle towards, turn 1. Let's see what plethora of carnage awaits us. I think that was Key 25 having a spin over on the left hand side and someone else on the exit. So there's our fair dose of carnage. Now allow me to introduce you to this race. It's Daily Race C of this week on Gran Turismo 7 Group 1 cars. So the speed of the carnage is just that much higher than it usually is. Through the Della Roger chicane, everything okay so far. Now for reference, I'm driving the Toyota Group 1 car, and this is actually going to be a really intriguing and interesting battle between the different cars that you can choose in Group 1. As you can see here, the Toyota with far better straight line speed compared to the Audi, but the Audi seeming to be the quicker car over the entire lap because the Audi has much better handling, as I kind of proved there on the exit of the second Lesmo. There goes Key back into position ahead of us. Now for this first race, I, as you can probably tell, started at the back of the pack, which is always the best way to scope out the carnage, the chaos, if you like. It's funny, you know, I must have made tens of videos of Monza Mayhem / carnage, something along those lines. And we're here once again around the outside of Key into the second chicane, and this is the big battle really between the Toyota and the Audi. The Toyota with much better straight line speed, the Audi with much better handling, and so you're having this interesting dynamic where you're going back and forth throughout the race. Now quite a few penalties to be served, and that's, as ever, one of the difficulties of racing at Monza. It's really easy to break the track limits and therefore get yourself a half-second penalty. So back down to 12th. It's been a really topsy-turvy race. Let's move it forward slightly, as again, massive overspeed against the Audi, heading towards turn 1, braking about 150 metres before the corner. Someone here in a Group C car, which is always quite hilarious to see. Group 1 just has a very distinct imbalance between the different cars in this group. And obviously on this occasion, it's the VGTs, which you'll see later on, but also the LMP1 cars, which seem to do the best. Now here, into turn 1, as you can see, I brake, and my seat slider let me down. So suddenly, my foot isn't really on the brake pedal anymore, and I had to stop, readjust my chair, and continue once again. So that's something that you don't really get in a real race car, I don't think. In sim racing, you know, your seat can just slide back. It didn't really help me at all there, dropping back down to 12. So that's one of those things I didn't really expect to find. So a bit of carnage in my sim rig this time around. Nice little double overtake here to reclaim a couple of positions. Moving back to 10th. And then a little bit later on, another double overtake if you like. Me and this guy on the right serving a penalty. And then we're going to get in the slipstream of Prime Minister Sean into Parabolica up into 7th. And this is going to start off a nice little battle between the two of us. The final lap of this race. Now naturally, as the slipstream on the straight, we're in the same car. I'm going to protect the inside in the Toyota Aston Martin, trying to get myself on Lawrence Stroll's team. Now that Adrian Newey signed, you know, I'd quite happily take 10% of his pay to join the same team. Nice little drag race on the exit here through Curva Grande against Prime Minister Sean. Which had the inside for Curva Grande, but he's going to have the inside for the second chicane. So it's going to be really difficult, I think, to keep the position from here. We're going to concede. Try to get the old switcheroo on the exit. Is it quite going to work? Not on this occasion. How about into Ascari? Well, he takes an unusual line and doesn't really get the speed on the exit. I couldn't quite get the cut back, but he actually slows down. I don't know if that was out of sympathy or what, but I get the position. And ultimately, after all of that, finishing in 7th. Okay, first race. 7th from the back, not too bad. Lots learned there, so we're going to go again, see if we can do better. I think if we keep it clean, we can get well inside the top 10, hopefully 6th at least. And it is very possible around Monza to complete such a race where you go from the back towards, let's say, top 5. Given the chances of a penalty for other drivers, even for yourself, but if you just keep it clean, let others make the mistakes, then there's every chance you can move your way through. And this race is going to be a very clear example of that. You're going to see so many people crashing out, and it's going to be one of those where, as long as I just keep it clean and tidy, I'm going to gain the positions. So there's going to be my first position. In towards Ascari for the first time, someone off very wide. It's Ugandan Commando, and that's going to be 14th place. Now another driver slow off of Ascari there. Look at this, momentarily 3-4 abreast as we head down the back straight towards Parabolica. So I haven't really done anything special there, just capitalising on the mistakes of others. And that's the opening lap, 16th to 11th. Drag race now with the Audi. The Audi is going to keep up in the slipstream. And it's going to be quite a close one into first corner, braking pretty much on that 150 board, maybe a tiny bit after. Now I'm going to release a video after this video highlighting the progress as the Spaniard spins out, highlighting the progress, should we say, of the meta strategy or the meta car of the week, because it seems like the Audi is the car to go to, but as you'll see in that second video, there are alternatives to it. Danny Racing there slowing down with a spin on the exit of the second chicane. So, oh, another person. So R4M Hamilton, of all people. So plenty of mishaps and carnage and penalties and spins. Thankfully, none of which have been for me so far. Into the second chicane, lap number 5. There's going to be another spinner. I mean, how many is that? I don't think I've really done a legit overtake. It's been all capitalising on the mistakes of others. And Monza once again living up to its name as the Cathedral of Chaos, which is a name that I gave it and a name that doesn't really exist except in my mind. Anyway, exit of the pit lane. You do have to do one pit stop during the course of this race, and that's not the ideal line there. Through the first chicane. Oh, and there's a spinner behind. You might have just caught that. Anyway, end of lap 7, beginning of 8, and we're just going to go past the Portuguese driver there, who we did battle with briefly earlier. There was a hint of a yellow flag. And I must say that the marshals here at Monza working overtime with those yellow flags. So up into P6, nice little group in front, who I have a chance of catching, especially if they're going to be fighting with each other. I mean, they are already. They're side by side here into the Lesmos, and that's going to slow you down drastically. It's amazing how much time you lose in these Group 1 cars when you don't drive on the optimum line. Go through a corner side by side, you lose so much time very quickly. And that's exactly what's happened to this group in front. So, positions in front to be gained, positions to be lost behind. Quite a close knit race here on lap 8, up the inside of Brown Banana. We had the extra speed there into Ascari, so you might as well go for the overtake, as the Audi much quicker through the corner, but if I'm in front they can't really do too much about it. So just pulling away slightly, trying to open up some breathing room before we get to Ascari, before we get to Parabolica, should I say. Final corner of the lap. This car definitely not as good through here as the Audi. The Audi just has so much more grip, just pings off the corner. Takes a good half of this straight to overpower the Audi once again, as we do there. Up into 5th, in towards turn 1, enough of a gap to not really have to brake too late. Really amazing use of the curb, as now it's Sparks going for the spin. So just another driver adding to that collection, that long list of victims of Monza. And I'm about to become a victim of the stewards by just cutting the first apex off that chicane. Fair enough, it was fine margins, and it is quite a tricky race actually, I would say, driving 11 laps without once going beyond the track limits. So anyway, we have a nice little battle here going between myself and the Portuguese driver, at least we did until this moment, where I decided to complete the set and get a penalty on the second apex of that chicane, ultimately then finishing 5th, which was not too bad given we started 16th. You know what, guys? This is actually a really enjoyable race. This is actually very fun. It does look like the Audi is the quicker car now. I think the Toyota has really good acceleration, but the Audi fundamentally is faster. So still up 11 positions there. That was a pretty good return. Okay, enough going from the back. Let's set a qualifying time and see what we can do from nearer the front. So I'm just very quickly going to go through this lap. Now, as I touched upon a moment ago, I'm going to release a second video about this race later on in the week, or tomorrow, if you're watching this on the day it's released. And so I will show you a quicker lap time than this. But I think lapping around Monza is really about understanding the track limits. As you can see here through that second chicane, really all over the curbs. As long as you keep 2 wheels on the outer edge of that curb, you're kind of okay. Through here as well, just maximising the curb on the exit. And then through the second Lesmo, you can get 4 wheels beyond the white line, as long as you keep 2 on the curb at least. And then return to the track before the end of the curb. So through Ascari, this is a place where you can carry a lot of speed. Should be flat out through that second apex, final apex. This was a good lap. It wasn't incredible, it wasn't anything special. Certainly by the end of the week, as we are approaching now, a mid 32 is not going to set the world alight. However, this was recorded on Monday, and therefore it wasn't so bad at the time. So it's going to be a 32.595. Okay, 4th on the grid. Pretty good. Let's see what we can do. Let's indeed see what we can do. From the front of the pack, rather than going from 15th or 16th, you'd think, theoretically, that you can have a cleaner race from here, given there's less people around you. You know, starting 15th, starting in that area, let's say from sort of 6th, 7th back to 15th, that's the danger area, really, especially on this opening lap. But we are just going to try and pull away. Indeed, we've already done that. 2 seconds to Rory back in 4th there. I think there was actually an incident between the guys in 3rd and 7th, pretty much everyone in that group. We're going to try and continue here, make some good progress early on, capitalising on the extra grunt in the Toyota Aston Martin, moving up into 2nd place. Up behind Beavis TV, and this is going to be the beginning of a really captivating duel between the two of us, proving that around Monza you can actually have really good races. And this was one of my favourite races that I've done on this game recently. So heading towards the Ascari chicane, let's see the difference between the two of us. Carrying a lot of speed through here, but the Audi should be theoretically quicker. You see it just pings off the corner, the gap increases on the way out of the turn. However, it's down this back straight where Sparks behind is going to serve a penalty, and we're going to reel him slightly back in again by a couple of tenths. So it's going to be very much one of those topsy-turvy races, up and down, back and forth, the gap going up and down. And so through Parabolica, again surrendering a couple of tenths before we gain them back on the main straight, heading towards turn 1. Not going to be close enough on this occasion to go for a move. I mean, you'd be very brave to go from this far back, or your name is probably Daniel Ricciardo, which mine isn't. You see just how much we close up, almost right into the back of Beavis. We are going to continue and see if we can get any closer. End of lap 2, again not quite close enough to go for this move into Parabolica, and this kind of set the tone for this early stage of this race, where through the corners he was quicker, on the straights I was quicker, it balanced out and we were about the same, and I wasn't really able to get the overtake. I just needed to get a bit closer, and that happened here at the end of lap 3. Beavis sensing such an occasion and going for a defensive line through Parabolica, that's going to compromise him on the way out, and therefore I'm going to be much closer this time around. With the slipstream assist, the extra power in the Toyota, it's going to be an easy overtake and job done, at least for the time being. This isn't really a job done scenario, given that that car has far better handling. It's going to be an interesting scenario now, because given the lack of handling for my car, I can kind of block him through the corners and then just pull away on the straights. So that's going to be quite hard for him to come back and overtake, but it requires me and we're going to cross our fingers and toes here. It requires me having an incident-free race with no penalties. Obviously, if I spin out or have a penalty, then I'm going to lose the position. So it's up to me to kind of realise that. You know, understand the scenario. I don't have to push 100% and risk it all. I have to drive at 95. Just keep it nice and safe and steady. So pushing on here, lap number 5. Gap opened up to about 1.1. So it felt like I was quite quick. I was just trying to understand why that would be. Was I just getting a bit quicker? Were the tyres going off quicker on the Audi compared to my car? Or was the other driver just having a bit of fatigue? I don't know. Who knows what the exact reason is. End of lap 5. Definitely a candidate for a lap where you can go in and change your tyres. But given that I'm at the front, I'm going to wait one more. Go in at the end of lap 6. As I don't really want to come out in any traffic. Beavis actually follows me round and actually has a mistake there on the exit of the first chicane. That's going to give me a nice bit of breathing room here, about 1.7 seconds. So this is kind of the gap I need to be comfortable, I mean out of overtaking range at least. And now we come into the pit lane at the end of lap number 6, as we said, changing over to the soft tyre. Fuel's not really an issue in this race, so I don't really have to worry about that. Rejoining the circuit, and as you can see the gap is about 1.5 back to Beavis. So we're looking good at this point, you know, 5 or 6 laps left to go, looking quite comfortable. But around Monza there's no such thing as being comfortable. You've got to pretty much always be on edge around here, especially through these chicanes. Really easy to get a penalty. Let's just monitor that gap, 1.6 going into Lesmo 1. And it's on this end of the circuit where I would say the Audi is a lot stronger than this car. And that gap comes down. You can see just how quickly it's evaporated from a 1.6 down to a 0.9. So I've just lost 7/10, just like that. And again, theorising why that might be, it seems like the Audi is very strong, at least at the start of a stint, on fresh tyres. And fades away slightly more than the Toyota does as the tyres begin to wear out. So that gap came down, you know, I lost about 9/10 of a second on this lap, and that was a bit worrying because that came down very quickly. I was hoping at least to keep that 1.5, 1.6 margin. And it wasn't only Beavis, it was Sparks as well, who had a little moment earlier in the race. But it was a 3-horse battle basically for the lead, and therefore, you know, any penalty or mistake now will be punished not by 1 overtake, but by 2. And so I had to be extra careful here to make sure that I don't get any penalties, which is easier said than done. So it looked like Sparks had a 0.5 second penalty there. And, you know, that's always nice to see when you look in the rearview mirror, look behind and you see your opponents getting penalties rather than yourself. So you know that you're doing something right and they're not. As you served the penalty there, it's only 0.5, so not going to lose him all the time in the world. But we don't have to worry about him for the time being. Just trying to take that corner nicely as possible to get a run onto this straight. The Audi's so much better through there. It's going to be really tricky. We have to ask Lawrence Stroll to increase the funding for the Toyota Aston Martin for the upcoming seasons. Anyway, lap number 9 in towards turn 1. You can see that the gap is just, it's one of those awkward gaps where he's there, he's not quite able to overtake from that distance, but I still got to be really careful as he's not really immediately threatening me, but any mistake will be punished. And that mistake was about to come here. Heading up towards Ascari, lap number 10, we're on the penultimate lap now, getting into the latter stages, and I just don't get a good run on the exit here. I just take a bit too much curb, the car doesn't quite like it. I thought I was going to get a penalty there, or running beyond the white line after the curb, and somehow I didn't. I don't know how I didn't get a penalty there. Normally you do. But what I did get is dirty tyres and overtaken around the outside with that superior grip you see there, losing traction on the exit of Parabolica. Disaster. I'm down to second place on the beginning of the final lap. This is not good news at all. Sparks' theory there, probably could have overtaken, but I think opted to stay behind for the time being. So I've got less than a lap now to try to recover this race. It was looking really comfortable. I was driving a fairly measured, balanced race for the most part. No penalties to report of. But that big mistake is seemingly going to cost me. Can we get back into the lead before the end? We're running out of time, and we're approaching the part of the circuit where the Audi is far better. Much better on the brakes though, I must say. Catching right back up to the back of him. Into the Lesmos, my worst two corners. I think Sparks has disappeared from sight behind. I don't know what happened. Must have made a mistake. As we head through Lesmo 2, got to get a good run through here ideally. Beavis is a little bit wide. Is that going to be a penalty? I don't think so. Now, on the run towards Ascari, I am going to get significantly closer, as you can see. Not going to be close enough for an overtake, but it's not going to be needed here because he just gets on the power a bit too soon on worn tyres. Gets the line completely wrong, and on the exit, we get the old switcheroo. You can see my reaction to that. I couldn't quite believe that he made that mistake and handed back the victory. I thought I was done for, but it was a brilliant battle. I've got to say, Beavis, you know, rounds of applause to him because we both had a brilliant battle here. Ultimately, after 11 laps, coming through to win the race. Come on, what a race. Get in there, Lewis. Oh my goodness, I thought I bottled it. I thought I bottled it. But then Beavis, to be fair to him, brilliant battle. He also bottled it.